Welcome to Chinwag Tuesdays, your passport to a world of language and culture. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chinwag Tuesdays. I'm Amanda, and today's special guest is Pan. Originally from Sri Lanka, he now lives in Australia as a career and mindset coach. So thank you so much for being here today, Pan.
Thank you so much for the invite. I'm grateful to be part of this conversation, and excited to collaborate with you and share my learnings as a career and mindset coach. Thanks.
Thank you. So let's start off with a little bit of an introduction. So Sri Lanka to Australia, how did that happen? And how did you start your company, Elevar Career Coaching?
Elivar is kind of a Spanish word for elevate. So there's a bit of an influence being a migrant and finding my partner here who happens to be Colombian. So that's the story behind that, finding a kind of a Spanish name to it. But yeah, it's been a long journey, Amanda. So I moved here back in 2015 as a wide-eyed migrant with big hopes and dreams, trying to achieve everything in my life as a migrant, because I've always had that passion to move to Australia. When someone asked me why, it's funny because for a lot of them, it's just a better life, better quality of life, all that. For me, it was cricket. I grew up watching cricket and it's a huge thing.
Disappointed of Australia's match results last night then?
Oh, yes, I am definitely disappointed. Now we are in the edge of eliminating from the World Cup. Australians are always like tough competitors in terms of cricket. So I grew up watching cricket. I remember I think, grade 5 when I saw Sri Lanka going up against the Aussies in the World Cup final in Pakistan. I think Sri Lankans won. I remember for some reason I cheered for Aussies, and my family of friends asked me, "What the hell are you doing?" And maybe it's the color, the yellow color or something. I was too little to understand what it was, but I remember that I had a bit of a fascination to Aussie cricket. So then when I went to high school, I grew up really watching cricket matches. Sometimes I skipped school just to stay back because we were like 4.5, 5 hours behind. It's called Ovasiki, as we say now, just to watch a game of cricket. And I envisioned or I dreamed to see MCG someday. And then watch a live game. So that's one of the reasons that triggered. Of course, the other factors influence. It was easy for me as a software engineer to move. But yeah, after that, it wasn't really smooth sailing. So as a migrant, I went through a lot of struggles, didn't land my job for 6 months, went through 516 rejections, struggled to find myself, find my belonging. But still, I found my first job, I think 6 months after moving. So it wasn't really immediate. I found a kind of a fair entry-level type of a IT job, not the hope of mid-senior level I was hoping for. So I had to start from scratch. But I progressed quickly. I was really finding myself feet in the first job. I was getting promotions and I progressed quickly. Within, I think, a matter of 3-4 years, I was grateful to find managerial jobs in multinational companies such as Honda. So, and then I think it was back in 2019, the job that I was working at Kaufland was a German company. They decided to pull off from the Australian market and go. So I got a big redundancy. So 200 staff got made redundant just like that. The operations were there just for 6 months. So that was a bit tough. That was end of 2019, just coming towards the pandemic. And then pandemic happened. I got another job at Honda. That was the last job that I did before starting Elivar. I have to manage a team fully remote without even meeting the team members. I was just stuck at home, just a 1-bedroom apartment, managing a team, laptop, and how tough was Melbourne's lockdown. We could only go out for 5 kilometers, outside. It was one of the toughest lockdowns ever. And for me to start a new job, manage a team of 7 people, that was really challenging. So within that time, since we had a bit of time, one of the colleagues who I think studied with me back in Sri Lanka reached out to me, "Hey, I know that you are doing a managerial job. Can you just review my resume?" I did a bit of a review on a weekend because I couldn't make any plans during a lockdown. And then I gave a review, bit of a kind of some changes. And 1 week later, he comes back saying, "I got a job. Your changes work like magic." And then I landed a job and then he referred me his friend. So 2 weeks later, I was just reviewing resumes and making changes. That was my side gig, all for free. So then I realized I can do this. People are getting results. Maybe there is something right I'm doing. It could be anyway. I love to write, but also I brought the technical know-how plus my copywriting kind of things just to make it a kind of a complete profile. So people were starting getting results. And then I was not really happy with like that job role. There was a restructure going on. So I just decided to quit. It was a good salary managerial job. It was really difficult to convince the family back home and the friends. Some call me crazy, but it was basically a leap of faith. Started Elivar happened like that. And if you ask me one thing, it's just my values of just servicing. So I asked myself, if tomorrow is my last day, what would I do? I would probably do something to educate someone or service. So that's how Elivar started. And here I am after 3 years, helping more than 200 people landing jobs here in Australia.
That is wonderful. How inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing.
No, not a problem at all. Even it's amazing to hear or see, sometimes reflect back and see how far I have come. But I'm really humble. I'm grateful for the opportunities I've had.
Definitely.
And all the decisions I've made to get to where I am today.
Definitely. Yeah. Now, you said you faced over 500 rejection emails. So what were the key challenges that came from that, and how did you overcome them?
I can talk a lot about that, but I did face a lot of challenges. I know that because I used to maintain a simple spreadsheet for every single job I applied to, Amanda. So after 6 months, when I looked at the count, it was a staggering 516. So that's my story.
Wow.
People like ask, okay, how come? Are you really kidding me? No, I said it's really 516. So one of the key challenges I found was I struggled to understand the dynamics, the differences between the Aussie job market and where I came from, Sri Lanka. So I didn't know the value of the hidden job markets at that. A lot of the jobs, almost now I know 80% of the jobs are filled through referrals or headhunting, recruiters finding people before advertising a job anywhere. So it was basically hidden. I had no idea. So first thing I did, I relied on my friends' advice, started applying bang, just focus on numbers, just mindlessly applied without having just it gave me a sense of productivity accomplishment too, just because I applied to 20 jobs, 30 jobs, 40 jobs a day, but I was not getting anything. And then also I didn't spend time to invest on LinkedIn. LinkedIn profile was there, but I didn't know what I can achieve through it. Like how to get exposed to recruiters and then get found by recruiters for jobs that are not advertised. And then in terms of mindset, I had a scarcity mindset, Amanda, because I think it's coming from the culture as well. I thought, okay, there is like only a little jobs out there, so I have to apply as many jobs that I can. I had lack of clarity on what my values are, what are my dream job companies. I see that a lot of migrants go on this path as well, like just thinking that, get whatever you get and doesn't care about what you want. So that gave me a bit of burnout and also not satisfaction. I felt my skills are not recognized, but it's actually me having that scarcity mindset, just mindlessly applying. And the third one is the lack of understanding of culture. I think this relates to what you do.
Definitely, yes.
So much with the Aussie culture. Maybe you can add a bit when you transition back. I feel like I didn't spend enough time understanding the cultural nuances. I think there is a story, especially sometimes like the direct communications the Aussie love doing. I mean, sometimes I felt like comparing with my culture, it could be a bit more blunt or sometimes rude.
Yes.
But we realized it's a way of Aussie culture. They like to, when I faced interviews, I felt, okay, is this the way that I should answer questions? Like sometimes people gave me feedback that I was rambling a bit and I didn't even understand what it meant. So I was not like on point. That's one thing. And then the slang. I struggle so much with slang. The most funniest thing, and you will call me silly, I was coming back for my part-time job, I think, and I stopped over at a local coffee joint. And the guy asked me, how you going? And you know what I said? I said, by train. I
have a story about this in a second. Yep.
So I said, by train. He chuckled. And then I said, well, why is he laughing? I laughed too, just to fit in. And then we had a laugh and I didn't even know what that was. When I went back home, I just Googled it. I felt so embarrassed that because this is after a couple of months, I didn't spend enough time understanding the local customs, the slang. So that was one thing I struggle with as well. So to get over it, I just tried to put myself out there. I know it's a journey. So I started, even though it was a bit embarrassing, I tried to embrace it as a journey. And that helped me to get a bit more confidence around that. You have to
Definitely.
adapt to cultures, learn new
Yeah.
things, and then differences between the job market. Those really helped me to face the challenges even after
Yeah.
500 of rejections.
Yeah, wow. Great advice in explaining those challenges. The how are you going one. So my husband's Indian. It's why I live in India. And he's probably sick of me telling this story, but it's a perfect example of difference in slang. So he's never been to Australia. His only exposure to Australia really was when he met me. And the first time we talked on the phone, I picked up the phone. I'm like, hey, how you going? And he was like, oh, I'm not going anywhere. I'm at home. So I totally get it. And this is honestly probably one of the most common phrases I get people telling me that they struggled with when they first got to Australia. And they have very similar responses to you. So I know that you say you felt really silly at that time, but I just want to let you know, and anyone else listening, that this is so common. You're not the only one that has said by train, by car, walking, whatever it is, because it's what people think. So another interesting point that you had said is about the difference in communication styles. So there's something called hot and cold cultures, and I can never remember which one is which. But hot culture and cold culture, depending on which one it is, it talks about the differences. And so there's different countries that fall under those styles. I come from a country that has very direct communication. My husband is the complete opposite. It's like Sri Lanka, very indirect. As you said, the rambling, not giving direct answers, but going around and not making the direct point. And I think that's very common with a lot of Asian countries.
Yes.
And so that's something to really, I think, be mindful of. And it's really great that you've mentioned that, because I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that.
So I feel a bit better now, to be honest. I mean, I know that like this is my early learnings, and still when I talk about it, I feel a bit nervous sharing these stories, but I'm now sharing this across socials and with you, with your audience, right? But since I understand, I have helped a lot of students coming from other countries, I understand that they can relate to it too. But thanks for sharing the insights. It's really eye-opening for me to understand cold and hot. Maybe I'll research about it too, just to
very interesting. I always forget which one's which. But basically, when you go through it, you go, oh my God, yes, that's me. That's my country. That's my culture. Oh, that's definitely Australia. I was going through it with a student and we were comparing. The interesting thing, though, is that some countries in South America are hot and others are cold. So I think in Argentina, for example, their communication style is very direct, like Australia. Whereas then somewhere, I think like Brazil is a little bit indirect. So it'd be interesting to see where Colombia falls if your partner's Colombian, whether you have those differences or if it's the same. Because this is something my husband and I struggled a lot with. He thought I was really rude and very upfront, where I was just being direct and very straightforward about things. But anyway.
Always fascinating to learn how culture and different styles of communication can have an impact when it comes to not just job search, but day-to-day life.
Definitely. Yes.
But thanks for sharing those insights,
You're welcome,
Amanda.
Now, one thing you mentioned before, and I was thinking at the back of my mind, is LinkedIn. So you said you didn't really know how to use that to your advantage. And you had said before that you didn't know about the hidden job market. So what strategies did you develop to land your dream job in Australia without applying online or having those local connections? Was it through LinkedIn, or did you find some other hidden ways?
The first job, of course, it took me 6 months. So, I mean, later on, when I progressed in my job search, I used these tactics more, which I share now to my students. So first one was basically, I went through the traditional approach, but I still reach out to someone, which I didn't do enough in the beginning. But LinkedIn, I'm glad that you asked, because that's where I think over the last 3 years, I track my numbers. So more than 70% of the students have landed jobs through LinkedIn and other ways. So
that's great. That's very great to know.
Yeah, because we come from Sri Lanka, India, and these countries, their systems is more, go find a most common job board, traditional online job board, submit your resume, CV or whatever, and then just wait for a response, right? That method really hardly works here because competition is high, and then there's a lot of other ways that recruiting happens. So that's where I got into LinkedIn over the years. I understood that for migrant, we tend to think that going to massive networking events is the only way. But for a migrant, I understand that we are unique in our own ways. Not everyone is comfortable to go into massive networking events, especially I was an introvert. I am. So I was not comfortable going to just putting myself out there with 100 other people. But in
Yeah.
LinkedIn, I found ways where I can connect with on a one-on-one basis, right? Reaching out to one person, having a coffee chat with one person, and then, of course, optimizing my profile so that even without reaching out, people were finding me,
Yeah.
right? Because this is the magic of LinkedIn. There, at this right moment, a recruiter or a hiring manager may be finding for a candidate without publishing this job in a job board. So how to
Yeah.
get exposed into that? It's like Google SEO, right? We want to get your profile up in the top
Yeah.
rankings. And that's something I do. And then with that approach, even with a little bit of effort in networking, you can still have conversations with people. And then understanding what companies are hiring and following their pages, really connecting with people who can make decision makers outside the hiring managers. People sometimes think you can only land interviews through hiring managers, the first level. But in LinkedIn, I saw a statistic, I can't remember the actual number. 4 out of 5 people, I think, are decision makers. So say the senior managers, general managers, CTOs, CEOs, whoever, they are on LinkedIn who can potentially give you a job maybe through a referral.
Okay.
Right. And
Yeah.
maybe a sponsorship. For a migrant nowadays, with all the visa changes, you're looking for a sponsorship. So how to get in touch with them in a more relationship-based way, building a
Sure.
relationship with them rather than just asking for a favor. That I help. Like I call it informational interviews, like an informal chat, adding value to them.
Yeah.
Like depositing some money in a bank account and then getting an interest later. Right?
Yeah.
That approach, if I simplify it. And then if you don't have local experience, I always try to find a way to volunteer for your local company. There's always small businesses in your local area or suburb, right? You can just,
Yeah.
find a grocery or a convenience store, find what their challenges are. Maybe with a little help of an Excel spreadsheet, you can just get a bit of add that into your resume, get a testimonial, right?
Yeah. True.
These are the strategies I applied. There are many, but key ones are get into LinkedIn, optimize it, not just use it as a digital resume, but also use it as a platform to get exposed to the recruiters. Find people outside recruiters, hiring managers to get like decision makers. Volunteer for community organizations or your local businesses to get a bit of local exposure. And then put yourself out there, like finding your first job. If it's a part-time job, make sure you choose a job carefully that gets you exposed to the Aussie culture. Because migrants often choose the comfort zone type of jobs, sometimes cleaning jobs. Every job I respect, even I did something like that. But if you work at Woolies or Coles, at least you get exposure to customers. It could be a barista, coffee shop, right? At least get to know how people work, the language, the communication. Those are the strategies that help me. And then I'm recommending to others as well to find your process and find jobs.
Yeah, definitely. And so I guess LinkedIn it's really all about the algorithm in a way, isn't it? So like the more people you interact within your network, it's going to start showing other profiles within that like kind of industry to you and vice versa. It's going to show your profile. So it's like the more you're interacting with people, posting, that sort of thing, it's going to kind of push your profile forward. So I think it's a really undervalued tool that not a lot of people know about.
Every single time I have a clarity call or a chat with someone, or I go to a networking event, whenever I share that it's just more than a resume or a digital resume, people like raise their eyebrows. Okay, I just didn't know people can find you without even applying for a job. And algorithm is everything, and you just have to make an effort to study and how it works. It keeps changing. Sometimes it's not in your control, but the little one, then try to leverage it. It will help you to progress quickly.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So you said you started out managing teams from a little one-bedroom apartment in Melbourne. So getting into those kinds of management roles with these big global companies, what skills and strategies do you think were essential for the advancement of your career?
Fantastic question. I mean, Amanda, this is a question that I'm always trying to reflect on, especially helping people with mid-senior levels trying to progress in their careers. So one thing is that your approach to solve problems. Sometimes we get into a kind of I call it challenge in the status quo, right? We get a job description and we just do whatever it takes and then just pack your bag and go home. I always try to solve problems, also volunteer for other projects. Just see how you can add value outside of your normal scope. This is where you get the points, and then others, not just your manager, other leaders see that you add value. You try to always have an open mind in terms of improving processes. So always ask where you can solve problems, not just sticking into your normal job scope. And then being a leader, again, it goes back to the cultural competence, because showing that you integrate with the locals, you value the Australian culture, is quite important, especially when you manage a team, because diversity is a core value of most businesses, and Australia is a multicultural, a diverse country. So that is quite important to showcase your competence in culture. For an example, I remember now footy culture is very popular here, especially in Melbourne, right? So in the first 6 months, I remember someone came to me, my desk. This was September, footy final season. Someone, I think a colleague, came to my desk and asked, "Hey, did you watch the game last night? And who do you barrack for?" I didn't know what barrack means. So I just said, who do you barrack for? I just put the question back, and then they shared the team. I basically had to lie just to fit in. And this is a common challenge that migrants goes to. First, I didn't have a TV back then to watch footy. I had no idea what barrack meant. So again, another embarrassment. But I didn't sit on it. I went back home. I searched what barrack meant. I asked my mate if we can watch the footy finals over his place, because I didn't have that money to buy a TV at that point. We watched the footy finals and then knew like a bit of that, so that I had a bit of context to go of next week to workplace and share about it. And then finally picked a team. So I picked Geelong
Which team
Cats.
did you pick?
So I'm a Cats fan.
Okay, very good.
I'm a Cats fan. And then this is how I met my partner too. We happened to work in the same office.
Okay.
So then we started hanging out, just watching Cats games. And that has been a really core integral part of me moving in the ladder and then helping teams and then showcasing that I embrace the culture rather than thinking that I don't belong in it. Of course, there are misfits. It's sometimes I struggle to align with them, but still it's just I trusted the process. That cultural part, competence, is quite important. So those are the things that help me managing global teams.
Yeah. Wow. Great. Thanks for sharing. So on the topic of sharing, can you please share a success story from Elevar Career Coaching that highlights the impact, the strategies that you've been talking about this call, how that's impacted the career paths for your clients?
So there's many clients that I can highlight. I mean, there are different success stories, different industries. But if I can highlight one recent one, Amanda. So I think I've helped a mid-senior business analyst. I mean, he was working as an entry-level type of a role. He felt stuck, struggling to move into the next job. So he reached out to me. I had a kind of a relationship with this person anyway for some time. We shared some insights. So I realized the issue or the challenge that they were facing is not just the technical skills. It's just more about mindset and the clarity on where you want to go next. So we did workshops and then strategy sessions to understand what they want to achieve, what are their values, what are their goals, and then try to really find that sweet spot between what the market demands. Because you can have values, but you can't just rely on it. You have to understand what the market is asking for, and then found that spot of, okay, where I should target. So set up the strategy around what are the roles to target, how can you position yourself better based on that strategy, and the new target job roles. I have revamped the profiles, worked with him on the resume, LinkedIn, cover letter, whatnot. LinkedIn, we really showcase the story. It's not just a copy as a resume, and then really dive into some modern tactics, how to use the algorithm to get found, and then reaching out to people. It's like getting found is one thing, but also you have to have an outreach strategy. So who to contact, how to reach out to people other than hiring managers, so that all of that was set up. And then finally, we worked on the mindset piece. Like as migrants, especially coming from countries like India, Sri Lanka, we have values such as humility, right? You can't really go out there like trying to sell yourself. Selling is always a challenge, right? So in terms of salary, this person was getting a salary 30% below the industry average, and then getting stuck in a role for, I think, 2 years with no advancements. So I understood the mindset, especially the values, cultural values part, and then helped him found his own self-worth. Because I realized for you to show your self-worth to others, you need to find yours within first. So that that was really a kind of an eye-opener. And then the result in a tough job market, it didn't last, I think, January to February. He was able to land a senior BA role in a top retail company with a 6-figure salary. So the
Amazing.
salary increase was, I think, 75% increase.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah. The company even offered him a bit more than he asked for because of he focused on what he's good at, his strengths, his values, and then his self-worth. So that's a success story of a migrant who just went from not believing himself to landing a 6-figure salary in a top retail company in Australia.
Congratulations to the both of you. What a great success for you and your client.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I feel grateful when I hear these stories. Sometimes I realize, I think I understand this is also something you do, right?
Yeah.
You educate someone, and then it's more meaningful for you to hear these results from someone when they pick up the phone and call you, "Hey, Pan, you changed my life. I landed a job, my dream job." I feel like it's more than a 9 to 5. I feel that I'm helping someone live their purpose, and that is a purpose of me.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, this is my purpose, helping others, and then it's helping them with their purpose. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm grateful to share those stories and making a difference.
Definitely. Yes. I can't believe he was like 30% under the market rate and then had an increase of 75%. I guess mindset has a lot to do with it too. Like you said, when you first got to Australia, you had that kind of scarcity mindset. So trying to break away from that and then knowing your value and knowing what you're worth. I think in any country, money is a very uncomfortable topic, whether it is pricing yourself, whether it is asking for more money in a 9 to 5 job or in your full-time job. Oh, it's so awkward. But the more you kind of change your mindset and focus on your values, your skills, and your worth, those mindset shifts reflect in obviously the money side as well.
Definitely, 100%, and couldn't have said it better. Like, mindset is huge, and that's why I kind of focus on that, because sometimes there's a lot of externals that you can't control. We are going through inflations, wars, and happening like everything. So we can't really predict what the job market will be in the next few months. But if you focus on your mindset, things that you can control, you will still have a bit of control to control certain things. So
definitely. Yeah. All right. And to finish up, what advice would you give to migrants looking to navigate and succeed in the Australian job market?
There's a lot of advice that I can give, but basically I'll stick into a few that really helped me and based on the result that I've helped others achieve. So first, really, if you're settling down here, if you're new coming to the country, or if you're someone who's planning to migrate, really do a bit of study around what are the differences between the Aussie job market plus where you are based in. Right? Get onto LinkedIn. Let's say it's time to connect with people. You don't have to really land Australia to build a LinkedIn profile. You can do it remotely. So especially if you're in a tech kind of a role, software or those type of industries, you can start connecting with people like remotely and then set up interviews. People are now open to, after the pandemic, conduct interviews on Google Meets or Zoom. If they see your value, they will offer you a job. So really make the most of understanding not just LinkedIn as a digital resume. Optimize it, use the algorithm, study about it, connect with people in your target job roles. In terms of process, aim for consistency rather than perfection. This I learned through the hard way, because I think I shared it before. I kind of get into a burnout situation because I thought, okay, I just have to achieve an outcome. There's a bit of pressure from the family back home to achieve a job. So I was just going in that without considering what I want. So take the time to reflect, pause, just understand you have to prioritize your health. Sometimes it gets overwhelming, especially for newcomers. And not just newcomers, but anyone who's trying to change jobs. It's really difficult. So just look after yourself. It's okay to take a break, pause, reflect. If something is not working, just don't do the same thing over and over again. Take a break, reflect, and try to change your approach. Have people around you. It can get a bit lonely sometimes, especially if you're a migrant coming from a different country. So maybe find like a community organization. So I found an alumni club who studied in the same school. And we have 300-400 people right now here in Melbourne who came from the same school. That helped me really share my journey and have a kind of an approach with people with shared values. And then Finally, just take it easy, right? You are here for a reason, like you are talented. Just embrace the journey, trust the process. It will come through. It's just about like understanding, just having a process to reflect on your values, reflect on your progress, and then just seeing what it can bring you. It can be simple as that sometimes, but yeah, key things, those are the things that I can share with.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. Wonderful advice. Really helpful. And now, how can people contact you if they want to get in touch?
Thanks for that. So mainly I'm active on LinkedIn. So I'm Pan Pereira. I post a lot of content, my learnings. It's not just about resume tactics or things. It's just I share stories around my personal journey. So you can say hi, reach out to me on LinkedIn. My Instagram page, Elevar Career Coaching. And as someone wants help around their job search strategies, you can always reach out to me on hello@elivardigital.com. Elivardigital.com is my website. So LinkedIn, Instagram, or my email, you can reach out to me. And then if you want to have a chat.
Perfect. All right. I'll put all of that into the description of the episode anyway, so people can just jump down there and have a look. But thank you so much for coming in today, well, virtually coming in and sharing all of these wonderful insights and all of your experiences and also successes. It's been really great.
Thank you so much for the invite again. It's so lovely talking with you. And thank you so much for the opportunity, Amanda. I look forward to having more meaningful conversations with you.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thanks.